we are just about ready. And if our next speaker is online, then we can actually get started. Jason, are you with us? If you are, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Yep, I'm here.
Oh, excellent. So I invite you also to share your screen. Oh, wait a second. I think that I need just to make sure that people.
I can't share. Can you provide that permission?
Yes, 1 second. I need to do every day.
No worries.
Try now.
Let me try it out.
Okay.
Good.
And now I'm going to stop my share, and you will be able to share not only your video, but also your screen.
Yep.
Okay, we can see you.
Cool. Let me share my screen.
Now, let me introduce you for a couple seconds, then you can actually take it from here. Jason, you have been in testing for 14 years, and I like the fact that you're both in the industry as well as in the academy. And I was amazed to see that you actually hold a PhD from the University of Melbourne, and that your thesis was focused on spectral debugging, which sounds extremely complicated. That's cool. Yeah. And today you are the director of QA at Freelancer. One of the reasons that we choose your presentation was because we like pragmatic things, and we like people to share how they improve the things from their own perspective. And you will be presenting a number of strategies to help transform the quality mindset and the culture of your organization. So we're pretty excited to see that. And I will stop mumbling and just let you take it from here. So Jason, go ahead.
Yep, cool. Thanks, Joe. Thanks, everyone who tuned in. Yeah, I'm Jason here. Thanks for the brief introduction and whatnot, Joe. Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for having me, Joe, Mayan, Rachel, and the rest of the crew for this conference. I'm very excited about it, and I'm very pleased to share. As much as I like, my passion is actually to share back to the community, with the community, what I've learned, and obviously share among each other as well. What can we actually do better to improve our quality engineering best practices around the world in this industry? Actually, more like in practical world rather than theory, especially coming from all the studies and studies and PhD and whatnot. So I'm very passionate about seeing it happening in the industry and how it works in hands-on, so that we can see whether it works or not. And if it's not, then what are we missing here? What can we improve from here? So anyway, today I'm be providing my sharing session on the 3 keys to transforming quality engineering in 30 days. So before I go through the agenda for the day of my talk, basically, I'll just give you a very brief context of my work. I've been with QA space for, like what Joe mentioned, have been for around 14 years. I've worked in multinational companies as well as startup companies. Before I worked in freelancer.com, I worked in Dolby for 8 years, good 8 years. I don't know whether it's a good lucky number or not. But then more recently, I've been working with Freelancer for coming to a year next month. So which is actually one of the largest crowdsourcing marketplace, where the employers can post jobs and whatnot, where freelancers can bid and complete the projects. So I'm looking after the quality aspects of the software, more so of the website for freelancer.com. So yeah, without further ado, let's go through the agenda for my talk. I will provide some introduction of my talk, and obviously I will deep dive into journey with you guys together how day 0 looks like, and what sort of 3 keys that transforming the quality engineering, and followed by what day 30 looks like and what it means after that. And finally, I hope that to conclude this talk, I hope that I will provide some key takeaways for everyone to apply at their workplace to transform quality engineering in their respective organization. All right, so let's move on to the next slide. So yeah, this is where I was standing on the top of the mountain of challenges. I'm not referring specifically on a freelancer, but more so also throughout my testing career as well. So in different careers in testing, the testing and quality has changed over the last 10, 15 years, where I used to work in waterfall model, where I just pretty much waiting there doing nothing, create some test cases, test steps, and then when the developers come, say, hey, there you go, let's do all the set regression. And then things have changed so much over the last couple of years, where we moved to agile, we moved to DevOps, and we moved just very fast and very, very quick. And in line with this, actually, obviously, for example, in Dolby, I worked there for 8 years, and I've gone through like at least 4 or 5 restructuring teams and whatnot in terms of QA, in terms of quality. So the more recent one before the last time before I left Dolby was like on my 8 years of working in Dolby. In my 5th year, towards entering the 5th year, we shifted from more like a functional QA or QE, where we all reports to a QA manager, into embedded QA, where we embedded within the team of 9 developers, say for example, and myself as a QA and another junior QA that which is just graduated. So that is how it looks like when we are structuring into that shift, and then how these challenges has taken shape. And this is just one bit of the example of context, but also for freelancer.com, when I joined as well, there are like 26 to 28 QAs, QEs that we call, that work together, but there's lack of or no proper direction of leadership of the quality from the top. So that's where there's the challenges that I'm facing throughout this testing career, and I like to share what are the keys that we can apply to transform this in the organization. So one of the challenges that I face in the quality engineering, more so in Freelancer, basically where we push things fast, we break things fast as well. So it means that maybe sometimes we have some missing or inappropriate QA processes that we missed out while we pushing the code to production. So there's no defined QA methodology or processes being defined in black and white, which has been understood throughout the team. Where you can imagine that we have 300 engineers or product owners, and we have only 25, 26 QAs. So there are different teams, different product teams, different tribes, different agile tribes. Everyone might be doing different things. So there's a lot of assumptions and hidden gray areas while we're pushing code every day, multiple times in a day to production. So this is some of the challenges that I want to spell it out as I'm facing this. So yeah, when I push in as more so for freelancer.com, we're pushing basically to step in as a director of QA. Basically, I was pushing to establish the quality engineering focus in the organization, not only looking at the quality of the product, as in the functionality, but also looking at the holistic view of the quality, where talk about what sort of requirements quality are we talking about, what sort of quality of the test that written about, what sort of tools of quality of the tools that we produce or we have internally that we can actually step it up, as well as to make sure that we deliver the best quality as possible. And even to the extent of the contents quality that we push out to the mass, to the customers out there, in terms of design quality. Those are the things that has been encompassing the quality aspects. So it's all about test strategies and test strategies and strategy, more so in this my current role. So that's pretty much the introduction bit. And let's move on to day 0. How it looks like in day 0 of this, more so for in terms of the freelancer and Dolby as well, where we change that shift. So first of all, how it looks like in day 0, basically there's lack of processes and there's no quality engineers, quality engineering specific processes or documentation that specify what we should do in terms of creating test cases, in terms of writing automated tests, and development actually do not do any form of testing. You just basically push everything to the quality engineers to do the testing before releases, and it's pretty much very heavily on manual testing. Because it's the nature of pushing things very fast and the agility of changes that prevents the quality engineers to basically say, hey, we need X amount of time to do this automated test. And hey, can you, Mr. Developers, can we actually freeze the requirements and the development so that we know that now we can go ahead and write proper test cases so that we can automate them as we go. So yeah, those are that was how day zero looks like. And from there, we try to shift and adopt this shift left or shift right, shift left mentality that this is probably most of you have seen this before. It's from the Dan Ashby, I take it from Dan Ashby's famous chart figure where we try to test everywhere across the DevOps life cycle as well. So that's the mentality when I actually started this, it being thrown into this different shift, trying to transform this quality engineering, try to put that frame mindset that we want to do shift left and shift right pretty much everywhere rather than QA or QE actually do the testing towards the end. So the idea or the goal at the end of the day, we want to improve the defect finding earlier as possible in the software delivery processes. And we also, it means that how we can have help developers to perform better testability by thinking ahead what are the test stubs or drivers that we should provide to the QA or QEs so that they can actually automate those tests upfront rather than towards the end just do manual testing. And we are human. We are always have a human human error prone nature. So that's why we need automated tests to help us to fill that gap. So this includes testing on the deployment and even on the release as well, where we have staging environment. And yeah, I will explain a bit more in the next few slides, but this is the mindset that I use when I transform that quality engineering transformation in this organization. So first of all, I just want to like to share 3 things here that I use more specifically, more recently within the 30 days of joining Freelancer, all right, the journey. So the first one that I try to transform the quality engineering is by introducing exploratory testing approach. Just to give context, the company has been going through exploratory testing approach before, but it's not structured in a way that it's not really a continuous habitual culture. It has been on and off because of the different shift that the company has been going through in the past 2-3 years. So I went in and basically introduced this concept to the company. More so, initially we tried within the quality engineers team and try out different approaches, coming up with a template of test charter, trying out with the time-based session of 30 minutes and getting a debrief session and setting up things up so that we can then gather some inputs out of that. And then after that, after the first week, I remember I introduced this exploratory testing approach on the 3rd day or 4th day. 4th day, I'm in Manila. I started on the first day. 2nd day, I was in Manila, flew in there, and then 3rd and 4th day, I was doing some training and introduced this approach to the team. And then the first week, after the first week, we gather all the inputs. We try to roll out to the product managers, to the engineers of certain teams that can and introduce that slowly, and then get their involvement and get them excited about it as well. And that from this process of these practices, basically we found about 180 bugs. And out of these 180 bugs, 70% of them are valid bugs. When I mention about valid bugs, it means that it's not duplicated and it's not won't fix and it's not reproducible, okay, and it's not invalid. All right, so 70% of them are valid bugs, and all these bugs are found throughout, like in a short time-based session by different product teams where the product QAs are situated in the different respective tribes, agile tribes. So in the next few slides, I'm going to share with you guys of what sort of bugs are there, and I hope that will give you some insight as well. So these are the type of example of bugs that we found through exploratory testing. They are actually pretty glaring ones in terms of functional, in terms of usability. So yeah, in our company, we also introduced this bug budget score, where every team, product team, has to maintain that bug budget score before they can push the features to production. So obviously, with these bugs and whatnot that comes in, the bug budget score actually exploded. And this is a good way to indicate that where is the quality at that one particular point for the respective team. And then let's look at the few more stats here. So these are the breakdown of the percentages of ET bugs found by priorities. So you can see that majority of them are dominated by normal priority as well as low priority, but we still have a portion of them in high priorities of 11%. And just to let you know, these bugs, right, they are about 20 sessions, exploratory testing sessions being held for this period of time. Okay, and the reason why I highlighted this period instead of 30 days, because it will give you guys a more clearer idea, picture where this going through. Yeah, but if you guys need more information of the data of that 1 month within 30 days, what happened, I'm happy to share after this talk as well, so that you guys can actually see what's the differences of that between the 1 month period and the over the 10-11 months period. All right, and the next slide, I'm just going to share with you what sort of bugs we found, what type of bugs that we found. So majority of them, they are belong to functionality, which is 39% of the bugs. When I say this percentage is basically the valid bugs, okay, not the total bugs. The valid bugs, 70% of the bugs which are valid. So of those, the majority are functionality, where functionality, it refers to the core function of the site related bugs, right? Like what you saw earlier on, an example, could not create milestone, could not verify payments, and yada yada yada. And then in terms of usability, which is 32% of the bugs, related to like user-centered interactions to the site. Say there's overlapping of the notifications, or maybe it means that there is this tooltip that doesn't visible, and I can't scroll to the bottom of the page, and so on and so forth. And obviously there are other the third largest type of bugs that uncovered from exploratory testing approach is design, UI UX. So basically it's more like a user interface, user interactions of using the site overall. And obviously there are other aspects which are pretty small. So this is how it looks like. I hope that gives you guys a good picture, insights of how these exploratory testing bugs have evolved and added value to transform that, to uplift the quality engineering best practices in the organization. All right. And this is specifically to the freelancer.com. I also have information on for Dolby as well. I do actually share these similar these practices as well in Dolby when we released an app initially to the store, yeah, a couple of years ago. Okay, so this is the first one, by having the exploratory testing approach. Secondly, as you can see from the picture here, basically all the trains, right? So the second approach that I took to transform the quality engineering is basically rolling out the release train and staging environment. So in my first month of working in Freelancer as well, we started to come together, working with the system engineering team as well as engineering wide team, to find out whether how can we have an infrastructure set up for staging, and also making sure that we have established the release trains. It means that we batch the releases, the divs, the features they want to push to production into batches of trains. So each time there's a train comes in, we push a set of batches of the features before production. We'll go through the testing, regression testing. We run through the API test, end-to-end test, as well as most of the tests, making sure that we have smoke tests, making sure that we run through all these tests and there's nothing that breaks, there's nothing regress before this batch of releases being pushed to production. And this, we do it on the staging. It means that the environment, staging environment is mimic the production, but the staging is basically in the intermediate environment before we push it to the production. So all the tests are executed on the staging, and we can monitor the tests, whether it passes or fail. And apart from this, establishing this release train and staging, we also roll out the SLA, the service level agreement, as in like when this test, for example, API test fails, when this in this particular release train, right? So who is responsible to do that? And as in who to look after this one, and making sure that the team actually are on board and be notified saying, oh, okay, there's a failure there. Let's look at that failure in detail. Is this failure expected? Is this failure because of some test flakiness, or is it because of some of the differences of the features that have been pushed, but the test cases do not cover this gap? So we have this SLA in place to make sure that all this can handle smoothly, so that there's no hiccups or lots of trains that just being blocked because of this. So in the second transformation key is basically by introducing the release trains and staging, and we have been running since the first month I joined, and we can say that the number of issues in production has reduced significantly because of this key transformation as well. And also apart from that, we also found that we can from the gaps of these test failures, we can see that these are the gaps that we need to add the test coverage, end-to-end test coverage, or unit test or integration tests, so that we can cover it. And part of this SLA also, when we uncover some issues, we have a post-mortem that we actually share blameless discussion with the team, that we discuss what happened, why it happens, what can we do better, and making sure that we can improve and reiterate and apply this improvement in the next round. So this is the second key. And then finally, the third key, as you can see here, none of my face is there, don't worry. So it's basically the collaboration. So as I've mentioned earlier on, we have about 200 to 300 engineers total, with the product owners, which we call product managers, and then the QAs. We try to foster a collaboration between these three amigos, working together, and making sure that the day-to-day activities that they push in, we involve quality as early as possible. From the time that the requirements are quality engineers involved in reviewing the requirements, provide the input, provide what is testability input, observability input as well, where we can where they can test, and they can actually start to think of how to design the test cases before they write or create the test cases in the TMS. And then we also look at the requirements. Before I joined, the requirements can say, for example, requirements are everywhere, but we do not specify, say, which one is critical requirements. Because for quality, for QA or QE, we try to use risk-based approach. Testing is exhaustive. We can only prioritize what matters most, what is the MVP, minimum viable product, what is critical requirements. So based on the critical requirements, we request the product managers to provide us that visibility, where is the critical requirements that you think, and then we focus on the critical, as a team, we focus on the critical requirements, making sure it works first before we go to the next level of non-critical requirements. And through this, basically, the team actually has better clarity on what to prioritize and how to prioritize testing, how to prioritize development, and even bug fixes as well. And during the collaboration of developers, QA, as well as product managers, we always challenge among each other, how do we test this? How can we test this point? Do we have these drivers, or do we have these stubs that we can write tests on them or not? So those are the things that that we try to inculcate through this collaboration. And in this line as well, in line of this, actually, I also held a few workshops as well, and a test day, we call test day, like where there's a test specific day in every quarter, where we talk about testing, talk about testing best practices, and doing it as well. So basically, like recently, after first month, we roll out this end-to-end test strategy to the whole company, and then developers and engineer and QA or QE, we actually write end-to-end tests together, and then we have competition, and then product managers will review those tests and see whether those tests actually fit into the requirements that they have at the moment, and where's the gap there, and yeah, and we have a lot of inputs out of that actually. These are a good outing. And also recently I also helped like a quality workshop to define with the team together, okay, what's the scenario here of this case study, the real case study. So what should we do as a QA? What should we do as a product managers? And there's a lot of good discussion about that. And because we are actually doing some more post-mortem sort of case studies and trying to dissect them and see whether how can we collaborate better to work together for the main goal of delivering a quality product out to the customer at the end of the day. And finally, TMS, which is a test management system, we also using this as a common tool to collaborate with across the team, so that the product managers can have visibility as well. Where are those test cases or regression test cases that the other teams are using, so that they know they have visibility of where those tests actually, and that's where they can actually basically use it to relate to their requirements. And also developers can obviously see that as well, that these are the test steps on expected behavior, okay, these are the legacy behavior, so now we are changing this, and what is the side effect of this. So yeah, those are the things that we've been using as well as part of the tool to foster collaboration among the team. Because I always mention to the rest of the QAs and the QEs and the rest of the organization as well, quality is everyone's responsibility. It is not belonging to QA only, and this is the mindset shift that needs to be embraced by everyone as a collaborative team. So let's move on. So in day 30, what does it look like? So obviously, we have established a QA process workflow that says that, okay, how do we log bugs? How do we, what is required in terms of QA, in terms of these different stages of the life cycle, like where exploratory testing, for example, situated at. Before, for example, before that, we don't have exploratory testing. It's just ad hoc stuff. Anyone likes it, do it. But now we know that, or we have that process actually, that exploratory testing must be done in every sprint of the milestone releases together with demo, as well as before we push something to A/B test. All right. And then secondly, how does the day 30 look like? We have more standardized product documentation that people can refer to. There's no question asked about, like, where's the test cases for this particular team A? Where's those test regression test cases for team B? And then obviously there's a release train being established, there's structured SLA as well, that who's responsible to look after of which tests, different pieces of this test owned by different teams. And yeah, obviously in day 30, we also have processes like expert testing, as I mentioned earlier on, as well as the test notes. So test note is also another thing that I rolled out as part of the collaboration just now. I didn't mention specifically. So it means that in every time that quality engineers actually do testing, they write out, they specify all these test notes, what they covered, what the scope that they cover, what sort of approach that they use, manual, automated, exploratory, or whatnot, and then what sort of criteria that they use, and what sort of environment that they test. That's very important. And finally, what sort of risk. So for example, when they're doing testing, the risk is, we don't have this, we don't cover this particular browser version because we don't have this, so there's a risk is there, is specified. So this test notes is very important, and it's very clear and visible to the team, so that the team knows that what sort of risk, what sort of environment. So there's a visibility there when it comes to testing. And if the last factor of QA, then at least we know what is the risk, or what is the test notes or test activities last performed by the respective quality engineers. Okay, so that is how day 30 looks like. So next slide, basically. So I would like to ask everyone here, right? So yes, 30 days are completed. Then so what? am I done with that? What is next? So is my quality engineering transformation accomplished? I would say no. Okay, I wish I would say yes, but no. There's more to do. These are the stuff that I'm doing since the day 30 and beyond. So yes, rolling out all those approaches, as I mentioned earlier on, explorer testing and all this release train and all SLA is one thing, but mandating them is also another thing. So that's something that we working throughout after the day 30 as well, making sure that every team actually mandate these process workflows, and then obviously getting the tryout, gather these inputs from the release train mechanics. What are the things that we miss out? What's the gaps that we can improve further? And we establish like a core test. We improve our core test. Core test means that apart from the critical test, we have this core test and making sure that the site is working fundamentally as a core functionality. It matters and it passes before anything else. So those are the things that we involve as well, and we try to basically push the boundaries of the quality to the next level to make sure that we make sure that the quality is at the highest level as possible. And obviously, the testing culture mindset is very important through a continuous test day or test quality initiative, because it's not a one-off thing. It's not like, oh yeah, it's a Black Friday or it's a shopping, and whatnot. Yes, but it's not. But it's more like a culture mindset, right? As I mentioned before, quality is everyone's responsibility. It's not belongs to me or belongs to my quality team or QE team, but more so like what sort of culture mindset embraced by the organization itself and how they think of that. So these are the things that is still in work in progress, and I'm glad to say that like now and more so a respective team in terms of the product managers, in terms of the developers, they have that testing culture mindset. Oh, okay, I think I need to provide this more information of this acceptance criteria to our quality engineers actually. So those are the things that the culture actually takes time to build, to embrace together. And so in summary, so that's how it looks like. Just to give you guys a good overview of how this 30 days looks like specifically. So I started in July in Freelancer. So the company started to realize that breaking fast, moving fast and pushing things fast, it will break fast as well, doesn't really make sense. So we want to release slower and release what matters most and putting quality first. So from there, I started to join that company, to join Freelancer, and then roll out these explorer testing sessions, roll out this infrastructure for the release train and staging, and formalize the processes, and have all these workshops and test day initiative as well to promote that collaboration among the product managers, developers, as well as the quality engineers itself. So that's how it looks like for the quality engineering transformation journey at Freelancer. So all these things doesn't work in a magical way or just by myself, but it works as the teamwork. I would say primarily the quality engineers that as well as the engineers and the PMs that is open mindset to embrace it together. So yeah, so this is pretty much how it looks like for the journey in Freelancer for 30 days, how I transform the quality engineering. So in conclusion, I'd like to, I hope that you'll be able to take away some of these things in transforming the quality engineering in 30 days. So first of all, we roll out explorer testing session, as well as explorer testing approaches in the company, rolling out the release train and staging environment, and finally having a collaboration culture mindset among these three amigos is one of the also another important key to transform the quality engineering in and out. So with this, I will finish my talk here. So is there any question that you guys have or any comments? Please feel free to open up for that.
Okay, so first of all, Jason, thanks a lot for the session. I like the fact that it's very tangible, meaning you got into a place, a place that sounds that, yeah, they had their challenges, but they were not completely falling apart. And you were able to find those pragmatic areas to modify There's a question here. I will start with a question. I have a number of questions that pop to mind, but the first one is
Sure.
a very simple one from well, I'm not going to try to kill the name here. What's the difference between a low and a normal bug for Freelancer for you right now? So that maybe you can give a little bit more of an indication. The difference between a low priority and a normal priority bug.
Oh, you mean the bugs? Okay.
Yes.
We have the documentation again, like specify what is low and normal. So normal is basically in other companies that I work with, is more like a medium sort of type of priority, where it still affects the functionality of the website, but it's not critical that affects, like, for example, the payments or the site that actually breaks or whatnot, which can be fixed within a week or less than that. Whereas low priority is more like, okay, the bug basically is something that could be improved in a way that could be better shifted. For example, the back button should be actually should be ideally there, which is very important for the functionality, but it's not there. So that's low priority. Wish list is another thing. Wish list is more like feature requests. Yeah.
Got it. So it's more, again, based on really the business expectations. That's a great approach. Now, there's a couple of questions here about exploratory testing. And again, working with practice tests, we do see that importance of exploratory testing. We even have an exploratory testing module, because people forget that exploratory testing is part of testing, meaning you need to be able to merge scripted tests with exploratory tests, because at the end of the day, it's a bundle of how you test. But here are a couple of questions. Joe is asking if you ever let developers participate in exploratory testing sessions.
If I let developers, what? Sorry?
If developers take part in exploratory testing as well. Yes,
they do. I can give you a very interesting story. When I first started, not story, real story. Day zero, the week one that I introduced this, and then I have a lot of comments from the product managers and developers say, "What? This is not my job. This is a QA job. Why are we doing this?" Because we are trying to roll this expert testing through Buckathon, through company-wide, right? So we're involving developers. And then, yeah, the answer is, from this story, basically, like we started with internally QA, and then after that, we get a few engineers, developers to that are keen, the teeny beanie ones, and then try it out, and then they see the value of it, and then they started to involve in that, and mandating them actually to do exploit testing for another team, right? That involves product managers and developers and QE for the team A to do exploit testing for another team B's feature they're going to release to A/B test. So the answer, short answer, yes. Yes, we involve developers, yeah.
And it sounds like you did it in pair sessions, meaning you pair a developer with a tester so that they understand what they're doing better. Is that the case?
That's right. And then we have specifically have a debriefing sessions that we capture all our inputs and whatnot into the sessions, and then we put everything in the ticket, and then we audit them as well as we go through what can we improve, what sort of things that they highlighted. It's very interesting that from the debriefing sessions that have a different perspective. I just to highlight also, we have this CX team, what we call customer support team, our support team. They're also involved in this as well, and they are very excited about it. They say, Jason, can you actually put me in as well, so that to make sure that I don't want to miss this. I want to be involved in this, because they are keen to know what is coming to change, right? If we are to push for production, yeah.
I've seen it as well, and I guess that it also gives the people from support a chance to even provide feedback from customers directly into the sessions, and to say, hey, you know what, we found this bug, because they knew what they were looking for. And it's important because customer A, B, and C, meaning they're able to provide that business perspective. I also like involving customer support. By the way, one of the things that I've noticed, because I'm a keen believer in developer testing, is that the insights, the approach of a developer going into a testing cycle, the way that they structure it so much, it's very, very helpful, because a tester will go from a user perspective. And so we will basically dance around the product, whereas a developer I have seen, they go very methodically, and it's basically a good complement. I'm not sure that either it's good in itself, but I really, really like that idea. I've done it myself. I'm going to continue with the questions because there are a number of them.
Go ahead.
Great. Kaylee from the US, I think, because I was seeing her picture earlier. How often do you run exploratory sessions, and why do you run them in that, again, schedule?
Why is it?
How often do you run the exploratory testing? Is it something that you run daily? Is it something that you run like bug bashes? And why do you do it that way?
So initially we started as the bug bashes, like in the Buggathon and whatnot, and then eventually when it goes to the company wide and they see the value, they have it every sprint. When they have a major releases, features they're going to push, and more so now become the habit or culture where before they push something to A/B test. If you guys know what A/B test is, to make sure that we want to win the test page versus the variant, the control page. So the expert testing session is being done before, like a week before that, to make sure that we found any bugs or any things that is showstopper, and then only we release that out, to the production.
Okay. Couple of questions here about management and exploratory testing, because I think that that's an important point. A lot of times, and I'm basically mixing both questions here. A lot of time management doesn't really understand that exploratory testing is testing. They think that testing is to be structured with a script and then run it. So how do you approach management in order to explain them that, no, wait a second, we're not wasting time. We're working methodological approach. How do you explain that to them?
That's a very good question. I think that the end of the day, I think that the short answer is data. And being in freelancer.com, we are a very data-driven company. I always show the data to management, say, hey, this is the expert testing session outcome. Hey, this is the Mr. CEO or whatnot, VP or whatnot. This is the amount of bugs or the type of bugs that we found in this session. And I provide those breakdown of the bugs that found, something like the slide that I showed earlier on about these taxonomies, as well as the percentage of the ET bugs found, the priorities. And they see the value eventually that at first they was a bit skeptical. Okay, like what you say, Joe, like, is this a structured testing or not? Is this bug really valid, or maybe it's just like that doesn't matter. But until then, when we dig deeper and present this in the engineer managers meeting, we show that this is the bugs that we found, these are the stats, and these are the details of the bugs. Then they realize that, wow, this is where the bugs actually the value of it, more so by the product owners, because product owners are very important. They are the important key stakeholders. They see that, wow, okay, you guys found this, wow, this tooltip doesn't work. Okay, that's something that we didn't consider in our requirements. Okay, that's good. So those are the things that that I try to involve to make sure that the visibility is there, to make sure that we can convince the management that explorer testing is still a testing approach.
And by the way, you know what? I personally also, because we had that issue, and I see it with a lot of our customers, that we need to differentiate as testers between ad hoc testing and exploratory testing. And here I go back to James Bach and something that he says, meaning you need to document your testing. You need to, even for yourself, forget about everyone else. If you're going to be professional enough, you're going to be documenting what you did because you want to debrief afterwards. Now, if you have your testing log, if you're documenting your ET session, then you provide that also as part of the, I'm not even going to say evidence because you're not trying to prove anything, but you're saying, hey, you know what? This is the exploratory testing that I did. I was not wasting my time. It was not a Netflix session while clicking buttons. It was basically test, just that we do it in heuristics and stuff like that. So I really like that approach. And I also like the way that you say, hey, it's not only what I did, but what I found. And if you can correlate between those, that's great.
And just to add on, Joel, that we also put all these issues observations, because every team has we call a coordinator or the product QA, product QE that actually works with the team, right? They will validate whether these bugs are valid or not. Once they validate already, they make sure that the guys or participants that found the bugs log the bug tickets and link that to the ticket of the exploratory testing task, so that in the management side of things, they can see that, oh wow, this session, okay, how many issues have been found? and what's the priorities. And those then will be handled by respective team. Obviously, the team that actually developed this to fix them based on the priorities.
Okay, I want to switch to another topic because
Yep.
it interested me as well. And it's a question from, hopefully I'm saying this correctly, from Quinn. I have seen in your profile that you did a PhD as your education background. Do you think that it's worth it to pursue a PhD or a higher level education in QA career, or is your experience more worth nowadays?
To answer for this question, yes, I always believe that pursuing a PhD especially in testing, is very valuable. I learned a lot. In those days the reason why I say that in those days when I still started in my career, testing career, I was just like pretty much like doing manual testing for Motorola. I used to work Motorola and pressing 100 times of the emergency button, and then not knowing that what I'm here for. And then I started to expose myself that, well, I want to challenge myself. I want to learn more about debugging. I want to learn more about how to think like developers and how to create a tool that we can actually help developers to find bugs. And that's where I learned that the different type of testing in that, and understand the in term academic itself, what sort of the testing boundaries of research that in innovation that we are actually trying out versus the industry. And I can say that testing is one of the unique research areas, academic, where the PhD, where you can leverage with the industry. I've seen in my area, my cohort, actually, they have been poached by Facebook, by Microsoft and whatnot, because they need these people to, the skills to be able to translate into as that software development in test, to build tools for testing purposes, if that's what you're passionate about it. Or secondly, how you translate the testing perspective in academic to the industry, so that you can see the gaps. And just for your record, I've been doing some academic work casually as well, to make sure that that I can impart this knowledge back of industry back to the academic together. So that the gap is, there's no gap of that as much as we want to.
Jason, thank you very, very much. I'm sorry, we're not going to be able to go over all the questions, but I do encourage people who ask them just to put them on the Slack channel. I'm sure that Jason will be able to continue answering.
Sure, more than happy to do that.
And I really like the fact that you were able to not only bring from your academic background, but also from your pragmatic background. And it sounds like you're doing a great job as Freelancer, and best of luck. And thanks for sharing. I think that it was a very fruitful.
My pleasure. Thank
you very much.
Thanks. Okay. Bye.
Okay, so just one sec. I'm gonna move here and share my screen if